Now, this budget, as we've heard from our friends and colleagues on the Democratic side, is the president's budget. And unfortunately, it's full of gimmicks and of tricks to, frankly, hide billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, you know, the president had promised a new era of transparency, honesty, and accountability. And I think those who support him and those who didn't support him were optimistic that that part would be true. And I thought when I read his budget document that maybe he was going to do that, because let me quote what it says in his document. Quote, "Too often in the past several years, budget tricks were used to make the government's books seem stronger than they actually were. We should not tolerate these kinds of tricks when it comes to accounting for the public's tax dollars." And you know, I think we can all agree to that. But unfortunately, this budget is full of such tricks. Unfortunately, this budget is just more of the usual, same old politics as usual here in Washington, D.C. The president's budget employs an incredible arsenal of gimmicks and of tricks to mask an incredible explosion of more spending and of more deficits and of more borrowing than this country has ever seen. The bulk of the budget's savings are frankly just an illusion, reflecting only bookkeeping and accounting changes and tricks to make spending appear less than it is. Again, what the president said in his budget document one should not do, his budget is full of. That is frankly really sad. One of the most egregious of these is the president's war funding gimmick. Look, to create the appearance of savings, the president's budget uses war funding levels at the highest ever in Iraq war, at the height of the surge. And then inflates those baseline numbers to assume that the surge level is going to be there forever. By the way, a surge that he didn't even support. And then all of a sudden, he says that's the level that it's always going to be, and then when it's not, he claims that those are the savings that he's bringing to the American people. And he said that, by the way, in the State of the Union even. This war funding gimmick, unfortunately, represents 3/4 of the $2 trillion in-line by line budgeting so-called savings in the president's promise to the American people in his address to the joint session of Congress. And it's a gimmick. How sad. How deeply sad. Let me put up a chart too, if you can. S-chip. I want to talk a little bit about S-chip, as Mr. Garrett just mentioned briefly. And the president assumes that this program will grow by an average of 24% per year through the first 5 years of his budget. And then, mysteriously, all of that additional funding just disappears. It goes away. So there's only two options here, folks. Either the president truly plans to throw all these enrolled children right off the rolls, throw them off, or, more likely, this is just another budgetary gimmick. The same kind of gimmick that he criticizes in his budget, on the first few pages of his budget. And then here he does it, and it's plain for everybody to see. Now, I voted to reauthorize S-chip. A number of people did not, and that's a good debate and a good argument. Some people thought it was spent too much money. But if you voted to authorize S-chip like I did, and then it is frankly inexcusable to vote to not fund it. You can't have it both ways. You cannot lie to the American people and have it both ways. And unfortunately, here are the facts in this budget. I want to talk a little bit about health care, too. The president's budget admits that the $634 billion, with a B, that he has in health reserve funds, quote, is not sufficient to fully fund his health care initiatives. And then identifies additional spending and savings as, I kid you not, to be determined. You know, that should scare everybody. To be determined at a future date. That's right, additional spending and savings are to be determined in his budget. Somehow, I guess, they're going to magically appear. And again, as I stated before, that should really scare everybody. And again, it should also offend those who believe, as he stated himself, that we should not use gimmicks in the budget. There are so many issues that we can talk about. This is full of gimmicks, but it spends too much, it taxes too much, and it borrows way too much. Thank you, sir.